All right, what's going on, team? Hope everyone's had a great start to their week here. So, this video is going to definitely be one of the lesser important ones. It's not really even completely necessary. I just think it's really cool and somewhat helpful to see how and why I like to use multiple time frames in my analysis and why I feel these set of EMAs really work well together across multiple time frames. So we're mainly going to focus on the monthly, the weekly, and the daily, as I feel those are the most commonly used time frames, at least for me. And we're going to see how this trading model is kind of fractal across all time frames. Fractal in that you're going to see things on one time frame that correlate to basically the same thing, but on a lower time frame. It's pretty cool. So I'm going to try and make this one short since the last one was pretty long and the next one's probably going to be pretty long, but yeah, it should be pretty interesting. So the big key interactions here are going to be that the 8 EMA on a higher time frame is going to correlate to around the middle of the bands on the lower time frame. And if we know we want to be buyers into the bands, right? And we also want to be buyers into the 8 EMA. So we might see the case that the monthly chart is coming into the 8 EMA where we want to be buying. And on the weekly chart, we're also coming into the weekly bands. And so this green line I've drawn is roughly outlining the 8 EMA on the monthly. It's not perfect, but you can see that it tends to float somewhere between the bottom of the bands and the middle, depending on the time of the month, of course, where the weekly is. And you can also see that upon losing support of this monthly 8 EMA, we've also lost support of the weekly bands. Likewise, if we go down even further to the daily, we can also see that often this lines up with the 200 on the daily. So we want to be buyers into the monthly 8 EMA, we want to be buyers into the weekly bands, and we want to be buyers into the daily 200 and pi. Oh, hold on, my cat is messing with the blinds. Here you go. Okay, so in that, we almost don't even need to go to the monthly or the weekly to see the usable information from there, right? Sometimes it's helpful, right? Because it doesn't always line up perfectly in that the monthly only closes, once a month versus the weekly is 4 to 5 times a month versus the daily is, around 30 times a month. So you're going to have the same monthly information across 30 days of trading. So naturally, things can happen during that won't adjust on the monthly until the close, right? But it's pretty cool. We can be at the monthly 8 EMA support, which is positive, and the weekly bands, which is also positive, as well as coming into the daily 200, which is also positive. So you get kind of a confluence of factors here, and it can be super helpful, right? So you can actually put the monthly 8 EMA on the daily if I don't remember exactly how to do it. There's a way you can do it by multiplying something by something. I've never done it. I don't feel like it's that necessary. But essentially, like right here, we can see we held the monthly 8 EMA perfectly. Here, we held it, and then we lost it, and we reclaimed it in here. Likewise here, we lost it, and then we reclaimed it. Here, we held it perfectly. Here, we held it perfectly. Thus that we have kind of higher time frame confluence with our trades, right? We know that we want to be a buyer at the monthly 8 EMA. So, there's multiple ways to be playing it, right? If you're in a daily swing trade, for example, right? Maybe you're trailing these higher lows, and maybe you want to cut it when you lose the bands. And then you notice on the monthly, we've held at the 8 EMA and we have a bullish engulfing. Maybe that's an early signal to be buying some back, even though the daily won't give the signal until a little bit higher up here. Likewise, and here, for example, we break below the daily bands, but we actually hold right at the monthly 8 EMA. So maybe you cut your daily position, but maybe you have a weekly position, right? And on the weekly, you can see in here, we lost 8 EMA support on the weekly, and we lost the bands on the daily. But this is September 2017. September 2017, we actually hold the monthly 8 EMA to a T. And this is our higher time frame trend. We want to give this the most respect, if you will. As long as we're still trending above this, we could still make higher lows and see continuation. And that is exactly what happened. And here, right, we didn't even close below this key level. The only time frame that did was on the daily. So that's why I kind of like to split up my positions. You know, if you're in a daily trade, strictly on the daily, treat it as such, right? Focus on that trend, and when that breaks trend, you know, it makes sense to get out and get back in on a reclaim. But if you're trading, you know, a long-term position, a core position, a swing trade, and a day trade, they all kind of want to be in the direction of the higher time frame. So if you notice, yeah, I got cut out of my trade in the daily, but we're right in front of the monthly 8. Maybe say you've been accumulating these dips on the weekly for a while, and you're still trailing out those positions as the weekly is still making higher highs and higher lows. Even though sometimes we get these trend breaks on the daily, right? Say you have, you know, 1 Bitcoin that you've been compounding into 2 or 3 or 4 Bitcoin or whatever on the way up. And then back here, you had bought 1 Bitcoin, another Bitcoin, another Bitcoin as more of a weekly trade. So now you're at 3. Maybe at this point, even though you're cutting maybe your swing position on the daily, it might be worthwhile to add to your weekly position, given that you're holding the monthly, you're coming into bullish EMA territory on the weekly, and then especially once you reclaim the 8 EMA on the weekly, which also lines up with a reclaim of the bands on the daily, then you have a nice confluence that makes it worthwhile to have added to long-term positions, even though you might have cut and had to rebuy your daily position. Does that make sense? So, you know, we're trading everything in this higher time frame, with this higher time frame mindset, right? These bands, or sorry, these moving averages, the 200 and pi on the daily, are representative of our trend on the higher time frame. So when we've lost pi and the 200, like over here, that is a time to be extremely cautious on the higher time frame, right? If we go to the weekly, we can see that happens the same time we lose the bands and the same time that we're losing the 8 EMA on the monthly, right? And that's going to be a very strong signal that there's probably more downside to come. So anyways, I know it can be a bit confusing, but I definitely encourage you to go look at the monthly, the weekly, and daily, and check out the interactions between, say, the monthly 8 EMA, the weekly bands, and then the daily 200 and pi. It's pretty cool, and you'll notice that they line up together quite often. And the most bullish setup is going to be when you get a triage of support. You know, you hold the monthly 8, you hold the weekly bands, and you hold the daily 200. That is going to be like a giga buy signal. It doesn't happen super often, but when it does, it's probably a good time to be getting into a trade. But anyways, we only went about 10 minutes here on the fractal model. I don't think it's that important. You know, don't get too sucked into it, right? Definitely focus mostly on the higher time frame trend, right? And the underlying trends on, say, the daily and the weekly. Inside of that, focusing on trading those individually can be very helpful, but you don't want to get too focused in on the daily and say the daily has a little breakdown, but it's all just coming into a higher low on the weekly, and you've just, you know, been trading around one position the whole time. I think it's helpful to have, you know, a position on the monthly. Maybe you get in when you reclaim the 8 EMA, and you won't sell that piece until you lose the 8 EMA. Likewise, on the weekly, you know, maybe you have another position that you get in when you reclaim the bands. Look at that. It happens the same time you reclaim the 8 EMA on the monthly, and you won't sell that until you lose the weekly bands. Look at that. Same time you lose the monthly 8. And then on the daily and the 4 hour, you can have a position that you're compounding a bit more where, you know, you're in on trend flips, you're out when you lose trend, you're back in, maybe you're out, you're back in, then you're out, right? And you're compounding around these daily trends, right? Because you're going to have a lot of, daily trends that flip-flop. It's not always going to be like 2020, 2021, where you have one strong daily trend that doesn't break until the bull market's over. That was very lucky, but I don't think that's going to happen, say, in the current day. We've already seen multiple times on this move up that we've lost daily trend, we've reclaimed it, we've lost it, we've reclaimed it, we've lost it, we've reclaimed it, we've lost it, we've reclaimed it. I think it's okay to be trading those around on the daily to try and get more and more position size over time. But keep in mind that weekly and monthly trend is still very much bullish. You don't really want to be getting chopped too much. And you never want to be in a case where you've sold a bunch on the daily and you have no position, right? You have no higher time frame exposure. You have no core position over the long term when it's still very much bullish, even though the daily or the 4 hour might be showing, a bearish reversal or something. But anyways, that's all for this video. The next one is definitely the most important of all of them, and it will be the last of this series, at least from me. So, if you guys have any questions after that one, and after any of them, really, feel free to reach out to me in Discord. I'm definitely going to be putting out more videos throughout time, especially as I get more and more questions. And the live streams, guys, if you're not watching, tuning into these live streams Sunday at 3 p.m. Eastern time and Wednesday at 10 a.m. Eastern time, I'm about to actually do that one in about 2 hours here. You guys are missing out because we have a lot of education going on there. I try and keep it lighthearted and fun. And we talk about a lot of stuff that we're not really going to hit on in this course, like, more current event stuff and like low caps and mid caps and, narratives in this cycle, all that kind of stuff. I don't feel it's really scalable to talk about that stuff in the trading course because a lot of that stuff is not really going to be that valid or important in a year or 2 years or whatever. But definitely tune into those if you guys have time. You'll have to be in Block Circle for that, as those are typically just for our paying members. But every now and then we do a public stream too, so definitely be on the lookout on Twitter for that as well. But anyways, much love to you guys. Keep it up. I'm sure you guys are doing great. And yeah, I will see you guys in the next video. Peace out.